I don't listen to podcasts, but I talk on
But
them.
if you did...
But if I did, it would maybe be this one.
Before the lights, before the fame, before Home and Garden Television's Hometown made Ben and Erin Napier household names, there was a love story unfolding in the quiet corners of Laurel, Mississippi. But hidden within that story lies a secret. One handwritten note that Ben left for Erin long before success ever came their way. A note so personal and moving that fans who finally learned its contents were left in tears. What did Ben write that changed everything? Stay with us, because this is the untold beginning of the Napiers' love story. Small-town beginnings. Long before television cameras captured his every move, Ben Napier was simply a boy growing up in the heart of Mississippi. What shaped him into the man we see today? What was it about this small-town life that planted the seeds of faith, love, and purpose so deeply in him? To understand the story of Ben and Erin Napier, we must first go back to where it all began. Laurel, Mississippi, was not a place of flashing lights or bustling fame. It was a quiet town where people knew one another by name, where the rhythm of life was slow, and where traditions passed down through generations still mattered. In such a place, character was built not on status, but on values, and those values would become the foundation that Ben carried with him for the rest of his life. From an early age, Ben was known for his towering height, his warm smile, and his gentle spirit. But beyond appearances, what truly set him apart? It was the way he treated people, the way he honored his roots, and the way he believed that faith and family were worth more than anything money could buy. Imagine a young boy spending his afternoons in church, in community gatherings, or simply walking the streets of Laurel with a sense of belonging. Could it be that this atmosphere of love and trust shaped the man who would one day write a secret note that still brings tears to fans across the world? Every great story begins somewhere ordinary. For Ben, it started in the simple rhythms of Southern life. Think about it. What if he had not been raised in such a grounded environment? What if he had grown up chasing the fast life of a big city instead? Would the love story with Erin ever have unfolded in the same way? Questions like these remind us that sometimes the most unassuming beginnings carry the most significant weight in shaping destiny. In Laurel, neighbors waved from their porches, and Sunday mornings meant the entire community gathered in wooden pews, listening to the sound of hymns. It was a world where children learned respect, adults carried responsibility, and faith was the anchor of every home. Ben was not immune to struggles, but it was here that he learned resilience. It was here that he began to dream, though he could not yet see how far those dreams would take him. As the camera of memory pans across the small streets of Laurel, you can almost feel it. The warmth of the sun on brick buildings, the laughter of families gathered at local diners, the sound of church bells marking the passage of time. This was the soil in which Ben Napier's story was planted. And while no one then could have guessed what lay ahead, this small town was quietly preparing a young man for a love story that would one day inspire millions. So, how did a boy from Laurel grow into the man who would win Erin's heart and leave behind a note that still makes people cry today? To answer that, we must step into the moment where fate brought them face to face for the very first time. A chance meeting. It was during his college years that Ben Napier's path crossed with the woman who would forever change his life. The small-town boy who carried with him faith, kindness, and a quiet strength found himself stepping into a new season. College was a place of discovery, of learning, and of dreams beginning to take shape. For Ben, it was also where destiny quietly walked into the room. Erin Raspberry was an artist with a creative soul and a vision that extended far beyond the classroom. She was petite in stature, yet carried a presence that commanded attention without effort. Those who knew her described her as warm, witty, and deeply thoughtful. Erin saw the world through a lens of creativity, capturing beauty in places others often overlooked. When Ben first noticed her, it was not only her appearance that caught his attention, but the way her spirit seemed to shine through her words and her art. Their first meeting was simple, almost ordinary, yet it carried the weight of something extraordinary. Friends recall that the two were introduced casually, but there was an instant sense of connection. Ben's tall frame and gentle demeanor balanced perfectly with Erin's quick wit and artistic energy. There was an ease to their interaction, as if two lives that had been traveling on parallel roads suddenly merged into one path. In the days that followed, their encounters grew more frequent. Whether it was a conversation in the college hallways, shared moments at social gatherings, or brief exchanges during campus events, Ben and Erin found themselves drawn to one another. People around them began to notice the spark. Friends would later say that even before Ben and Erin truly realized the depth of what was happening, others could already sense that something lasting was being formed. As time passed, their friendship deepened into something more meaningful. Erin admired Ben's steadiness and his unwavering sense of purpose. He was not just another college student chasing fleeting moments. He carried within him a vision of life built on faith, love, and responsibility. Ben, on the other hand, was captivated by Erin's ability to see beauty in the world and her determination to leave her mark on it. She inspired him to dream bigger, to see possibilities where others saw limitations. Together they found common ground in their values, creativity, and the belief that life was meant to be lived with intention. These shared foundations began to form the base of a relationship that would stand the test of time. Their bond grew not through grand gestures, but through simple, consistent acts of care, laughter, and mutual respect. What began as a chance meeting in the college halls would soon evolve into a story of love that reached far beyond their wildest imaginations. It was in these early days that the groundwork was laid for the promise Ben would later capture in a handwritten note, a promise that years later would move fans around the world to tears. Falling in love. As the seasons passed on their college campus, what began as a simple connection between Ben and Erin quietly blossomed into something far more profound. Their friendship grew steady, anchored not in fleeting attraction, but in a foundation of shared values and unspoken understanding. In the midst of busy schedules, late-night study sessions, and the everyday routines of student life, a love story was slowly unfolding. Ben's presence was reassuring. His towering figure might have been the first thing people noticed, but Erin quickly discovered the strength of his character beneath it. He was thoughtful, intentional, and intensely loyal. For Erin, who often carried her heart through the fragile lens of art and creativity, Ben became a place of safety. He listened when she spoke, encouraged her when doubts arose, and carried an optimism that steadied her when life felt uncertain. For Ben, Erin was unlike anyone he had ever known. She was small in stature but carried an energy that lit up every room she entered. Her laughter was quick and genuine, her creativity endless. Whether she was sketching, painting, or simply sharing ideas, Erin's way of viewing the world inspired him. She pushed him to dream bigger, to look beyond what was in front of him, and to believe that his life could have a deeper purpose. Together, they became inseparable. Their friends noticed the growing bond, often remarking how natural they seemed together. It was as though Ben and Erin had been written into the same story long before they even met. They shared meals, exchanged letters, and spent hours in conversations that stretched into the night. Their love was not rushed. It grew in the quiet moments, in the ordinary days, in the simple act of showing up for one another. They also shared a faith that guided their decisions and shaped their vision for the future. Sunday mornings often found them side by side, worshiping together and finding strength in their shared belief that their relationship was not just chance but something designed by God. That spiritual bond deepened their connection, turning affection into commitment and attraction into a lasting partnership. Like all young couples, they faced their share of challenges. Balancing studies, personal dreams, and the uncertainties of the future was never easy. Yet, in the face of stress and doubt, their relationship endured. They leaned on one another, building a trust that would carry them far beyond the walls of their college years. Erin once admitted that even in those early days she could sense that Ben was the man she would one day marry. Looking back, these were the years when the roots of their love grew strongest. With every passing day, Ben and Erin were no longer just two students sharing time together. They were becoming soulmates, preparing for a journey neither of them could have imagined. And while the world had not yet seen their story, it was during this season of falling in love that Ben quietly began to put into words the promise he held in his heart. The secret note. Every love story has a turning point, a moment when feelings become more than words and gestures. For Ben Napier, that moment came long before he and Erin ever imagined a future of television cameras, magazine covers, and fans across the country. And it came in the quiet act of putting pen to paper. In the stillness of his heart, Ben decided to write Erin a note. It was not just any note, it was a declaration, a promise, and a vision of what he hoped their love could one day become. Ben was never one for shallow words. Everything about him carried depth, and when he chose to write, he wrote with intention. For Erin, the note arrived like a whisper of destiny. Tucked inside those lines was more than affection, it was faith, speaking into the unknown, a glimpse into a future that neither of them had yet seen. What inspired Ben to write it? Perhaps it was the way Erin made him feel safe enough to dream. Maybe it was the way she viewed life through a lens of beauty and hope. Or maybe it was the certainty he carried even then that Erin was not just another chapter in his story, but the story itself. Whatever his reason, he took the time to pour into words what his heart already knew. The note was simple in appearance but heavy in meaning. Its words carried the tenderness of young love but also the weight of commitment. This was not a letter of fleeting romance, but the kind of writing that speaks of forever. Erin, holding it in her hands, felt something stir within her. Here was a man who was not afraid to be vulnerable, who dared to write down his feelings, who believed in a love strong enough to last. The secret of that note would remain tucked away for years, hidden from the world, yet shaping the path of their relationship in ways unseen. Whenever struggles came, whenever doubts crept in, Erin remembered the words Ben had written. That piece of paper became a quiet anchor, reminding her that their bond was more than emotions. It was a covenant written in ink long before life ever tested their resolve. To their friends and classmates, Ben and Erin appeared to be a couple simply falling deeper in love. But behind the scenes, the note became something of a private vow, a secret promise between two hearts. Erin did not speak much about it, but she kept it close, holding it as a reminder of who Ben truly was. A man who dreamed of building a home, creating a family, and leaving a legacy rooted in love rather than ambition. In time, that secret note would be revealed to the world, leaving fans in tears. But in these early days, it remained theirs alone, a symbol of young love daring to look toward forever. It was proof that sometimes the smallest gestures carry the greatest weight, and sometimes a simple note can change the course of two lives. Trials and turning points. Love stories are not built only on perfect days. They are tested in the fire of difficulty, in the shadows of uncertainty, and in the quiet battles no one else sees. For Ben and Erin Napier, the early years of their relationship were filled with joy, but also with challenges that forced them to lean on one another in ways that would later define their marriage. As college students dreaming of the future, they faced the reality of financial strain. Money was tight, and like many young couples, they learned to make every dollar stretch. Simple dates often meant walking together and sharing conversations, rather than expensive outings. Yet these moments of simplicity strengthened their bond. They discovered that love was not measured by what they could buy, but by the time they invested in each other. Health struggles also tested their resolve. Erin faced personal health challenges that weighed heavily on her at times, leaving her uncertain about what the future might hold. Ben stood by her through it all, offering not only encouragement, but an unwavering presence. His support was more than words. It was action, patience, and loyalty when circumstances felt overwhelming. Erin would later share how his faith and stability gave her courage when she had little strength of her own. The world outside their relationship brought its own pressures. Balancing academic responsibilities with part-time work and personal dreams often left them exhausted. There were moments of doubt about the path ahead. Could they really build the kind of life they envisioned? Could their love endure the tests that seemed to appear at every corner? It was during these times that Erin often turned back to Ben's handwritten note. The words he had written became a quiet source of reassurance, a reminder that their love was not temporary, but destined for something greater. These trials also revealed the depth of their faith. Sunday mornings were more than tradition for Ben and Erin. They became moments of grounding, times when they re-centered their relationship on the values that mattered most. Prayer and community gave them strength, offering clarity when everything else seemed uncertain. It was through this shared faith that they began to see trials not as obstacles, but as stepping stones towards something bigger than themselves. Through every challenge, their love grew more resilient. They learned to laugh even in the most challenging times, to encourage one another when life seemed overwhelming, and to find hope when circumstances felt bleak. Far from tearing them apart, the trials of their early years forged a deeper bond. They discovered that true love is not proven in comfort, but in perseverance, and that the greatest turning points often emerge from seasons of struggle. These experiences became the soil in which their future marriage would take root. By the time they stood at the altar, Ben and Erin were not simply two young people in love. They were partners who had walked through storms together, carrying scars but also carrying strength. And in the years to come, that strength would serve them well as they built a home, a family, and a future that began with a secret note. Marriage and new beginnings. When Ben and Erin Napier exchanged vows, it was more than a wedding day. It was the culmination of years of friendship, faith, and a love story forged through both joy and trial. Their ceremony was not extravagant by Hollywood standards, but it carried the kind of beauty that only sincerity can create. Family and close friends gathered, not to witness a spectacle, but to celebrate a union that already felt timeless. At that moment, Ben and Erin did not see themselves as rising stars or future television personalities. They were simply two people in love, ready to step into a lifetime together. Married life brought with it both excitement and responsibility. The couple began building a home in Laurel, Mississippi, a place they had always treasured for its charm and community spirit. Their days were filled with the ordinary routines of newlyweds, cooking meals together, decorating their first space, and dreaming aloud about what the future might hold. While money was still tight, love was abundant. Their home reflected more heart than wealth, more creativity than extravagance. Erin's artistic touch was everywhere, from carefully chosen colors on the walls to hand-drawn sketches tucked into corners. Ben, with his hands-on approach, built furniture and crafted details that gave their home a warmth unique to them. Their marriage was also a season of new beginnings beyond the walls of their house. Together, they began to cultivate a vision for Laurel itself. Erin dreamed of reviving the beauty of old homes that had been forgotten, and Ben shared her passion for community. Their conversations often turned to how they could combine their talents to not only create a life for themselves but also give back to the town they both loved. It was a vision that, in time, would lead them to opportunities far greater than they could have imagined. But for now, they embraced the simplicity of marriage. Saturday mornings meant coffee on the porch. Evenings were spent in laughter, sometimes surrounded by friends, other times just the two of them, recounting memories and planning ahead. They quickly learned that marriage was not a fairy tale without its challenges. There were disagreements, adjustments, and growing pains. Yet through it all, the same commitment that had carried them through their trials as students remained unshaken. Faith continued to guide their steps. Ben and Erin were intentional about building not just a house, but a spiritual foundation for their life together. Their marriage was a partnership rooted in shared prayer, shared dreams, and a deep belief that they had been brought together for a purpose larger than themselves. This sense of calling gave them confidence even when the future seemed uncertain. Looking back now, it is clear that these early years of marriage laid the groundwork for everything that would follow. The love expressed in Ben's secret note was being lived out in real time. It was no longer just words on a page, but a daily reality of sacrifice, joy, and faithfulness. As they settled into married life, neither could have known that soon their story would reach far beyond Laurel, capturing the hearts of millions. The road to fame. For years after their wedding, Ben and Erin Napier lived what many would call an ordinary life. They poured their energy into their marriage, into their work, and into their community. Laurel, Mississippi remained their anchor, and it was here that they first began to plant seeds of a vision much bigger than themselves. What neither of them could see clearly at the time was that their passion for preserving history and restoring beauty would one day propel them far beyond the boundaries of their small town. It started quietly. Erin, with her natural creativity and artistic eye, began capturing her designs and sharing her ideas. Ben, with his strength and craftsmanship, used his hands to bring those designs to life. Together, they formed a team whose talents complemented each other perfectly. Their work was not motivated by fame, but by love for their town and a desire to give people spaces that felt alive again. Old homes that had been neglected were transformed into places of warmth, charm, and renewed purpose. Word began to spread about their projects. Friends and neighbors admired the way they honored the past while breathing new life into forgotten buildings. Local publications featured their efforts, and soon people outside Laurel were taking notice. The couple's authenticity and sincerity drew attention in a world often consumed by superficiality. They were not trying to be celebrities. They were simply being themselves, grounded, creative, and full of heart. The turning point came when home and garden television producers discovered their work and vision. At first, the idea of being on television felt far removed from the quiet lives they were living. Cameras, crews, and national exposure were never part of their plan. But as conversations unfolded, it became clear that their story was precisely the kind of inspiration audiences were longing to see. Erin and Ben, with their down-to-earth personalities and heartfelt love for home, offered something refreshingly different. When Hometown premiered, it didn't take long for viewers to fall in love with the show. Their chemistry, their humor, and their genuine devotion to one another set them apart. Audiences could see that their love was real, that their work was meaningful, and that their hearts were fixed on something greater than fame. Laurel itself became a character in the story, with its small-town charm shining on screens across America. For Ben and Erin, the journey to fame was never about the spotlight. It was about the calling they felt to restore, to serve, and to build. Yet, with every new season, with every home they transformed, and with every interview they gave, the influence of their story continued to grow. Millions tuned in not just for the renovations, but to witness how love, faith, and commitment could shape lives and communities. And as their fame grew, so did the weight of that secret note. For Erin, the words Ben had written long before the cameras ever arrived felt almost prophetic. He had promised a future filled with love, a home built on purpose, and a legacy bigger than themselves. Now, that promise was unfolding before the eyes of the world. The secret note revealed. Every great love story carries a moment of revelation, a point when something hidden comes into the light and changes the way we see the journey. For Ben and Erin Napier, that moment came with the unveiling of a note Ben had written years earlier, long before fame, fortune, or the lights of television ever entered their lives. The note had been a secret between them, quietly folded away as a treasure Erin held close. It was simple in appearance, just ink on paper, but it carried the weight of Ben's heart and his vision for their future together. For years it remained private, something too personal to share beyond the walls of their relationship. However, when Erin finally revealed it to fans, it left audiences worldwide in tears. What did Ben write? His words were not about riches or accomplishments. He did not dream of fame or national attention. Instead, he wrote of love, loyalty, and the promise of building a life with Erin that would withstand every storm. He wrote about the family they would one day have, the home they would create, and the legacy of faith and love they would leave behind. His words were both tender and firm, filled with the certainty of a man who knew his heart had found its home. For Erin, the note was more than a romantic gesture. It was a lifeline during their hardest seasons. When health struggles overwhelmed her, she returned to those words. When money was scarce and the future uncertain, she reread the note. It reminded her that Ben was not just a partner in the present, but a man who had committed his whole heart to her future. The note became a private vow, a promise written before their marriage, before their fame, before life tested them. When fans learned of its contents, the response was overwhelming. Viewers of Hometown had always admired Ben and Erin for their authenticity, but the note revealed the depth of their story in a way television could not capture. Social media is filled with messages of admiration and tears. Couples spoke of being inspired to write their own promises. Families shared how the words reminded them of what truly mattered. In a culture often filled with fleeting romances and shallow commitments, Ben's note stood as a timeless reminder of love's enduring power. The moment of revelation also deepened the impact of their public story. Audiences realized that what they saw on screen was not a performance, but rather a genuine representation of reality. The love, the laughter, the devotion, it was real, and it had been spoken into existence long before cameras arrived. The note revealed not only Ben's heart, but the prophetic nature of their journey. He had written of a home filled with love, and together they had built one that touched millions. The secret note, once tucked away, became a symbol of hope for countless people. It proved that sometimes the most powerful legacies are not found in public success, but in private promises kept. And for Ben and Erin, it was a reminder that their fame was never the story. The story was love itself. Legacy of love. The story of Ben and Erin Napier is more than a tale of television fame or small-town success. It is, at its core, a love story written in ordinary moments and sealed by extraordinary devotion. From the quiet streets of Laurel to the bright lights of national television, their journey has been marked not by the pursuit of celebrity, but by the quest for faith, family, and one another. Today, the world knows Ben and Erin as the warm, genuine couple from hometown. Millions watch as they restore houses and breathe new life into forgotten spaces. Yet behind every renovation, behind every smile captured on screen, there is the unshakable foundation of a marriage rooted in a promise. That promise, first written in Ben's secret note, has guided their path from the beginning. The note was never intended for public eyes. It was personal, heartfelt, and deeply sacred. But when the world finally heard of its existence, it revealed something profound. The Napiers' success was never about fame, contracts, or cameras. It was about living out the words Ben had once placed on paper, words of devotion, of family, of building a home together. Their story became proof that true love does not begin in the spotlight. It starts in the quiet, in the unseen, in the handwritten vows of two people determined to walk life together. Their love has not only shaped their marriage, but has also become a beacon for countless others. Fans often write to them, sharing how their story has restored hope in marriage, faith, and commitment. Couples have been inspired to return to the basics of love, to put down their phones, write letters again, and cherish the small things in life. In a world where relationships often collapse under pressure, Ben and Erin's example stands as a reminder that love can endure when it is anchored in something greater than circumstance. What makes their legacy so powerful is not perfection. They are open about struggles, about the difficulties of balancing work, family, and fame. Yet their transparency only deepens the respect fans hold for them. Their story feels relatable, attainable, and deeply human. They are proof that ordinary people, armed with extraordinary faith and devotion, can build a legacy that touches the world. And so, the love story that began with a chance meeting in college and was sealed by a secret note has grown into something far greater than either of them could have imagined. They did not set out to inspire millions, but by living faithfully to their vows, they have done precisely that. Their legacy is not a television show. Their legacy is love itself, a love that builds, restores, and endures. As the cameras continue to follow their journey, one truth remains clear. The secret note Ben wrote all those years ago was more than words. It was a prophecy, a vision, and a promise. A promise that has carried them from obscurity to influence, from private vows to public inspiration. And as fans continue to watch, one thing is sure. The greatest masterpiece Ben and Erin have ever built is not a house in Laurel. It is the life and love they have built together. Every story has a defining moment, a choice that reveals who we truly are. For Ben Napier, that moment was not when cameras arrived or when fame came knocking. It happened years earlier with a simple note written by hand. In that choice to write down his heart, he declared that love, commitment, and faith would be the accurate compass of his life. The world often measures success by numbers, contracts, and headlines. However, Ben and Erin's story reveals something different. Real success is not found in applause. It is found in the quiet vow to love faithfully, in the determination to build a home that stands even when storms come, and in the courage to keep promises that were once only words on a page. When the secret note was revealed, fans were moved to tears not because of the paper itself, but because of the truth it carried. What do you think about this story? Please share your thoughts in the comments. Kindly like the video and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.